In 1996, one of the films that marked an emerging era in the catastrophe film genre would be released. Although the technology was not entirely there to generate good special effects, they managed to create the maximum realism possible. In a decade where the greatest exponents of the genre, we can find Dante's Peak, Volcano, Deep Impact, Armageddon, and the highest-grossing film in history in the catastrophe genre, Titanic. These films were going to be the pillars that evolved after the emergence of the digital era after the 2000s. To give us an idea of the progress in special effects, the movie The Day After Tomorrow is only 8 years old with effects like this. As we see, the difference is notable. With the new remake just a few weeks away from release, today we review the original version of Twister. To make a brief introduction to the natural disasters subgenre, it can be noted that in particular, the theme of tornadoes is no longer enough. It has not been exploited as much as, for example, films about meteorites, volcanoes, or earthquakes. Like the fear of the tornado was lost over time, and a single tornado is no longer enough. This evolved into another genre that directly includes it, what we will call. When climate change strikes, then all natural disasters are included together. One tornado is not enough. There have to be 5. And, in addition, an earthquake, a volcanic eruption, tsunamis, and meteorites. Representing the tornado theme we find and make a small tier list. Don't waste your time. Tornado Valley, Atomic Twister. Quite bad. Supercell, current film, good special effects. The weakest thing is the script and the performances, except for the collaboration of Alec Baldwin. The excess of dialogue and lack of action makes you wonder if this is a tornado movie. 13 minutes, a trailer that promised a lot, but when I saw it, it was so slow and boring that they left the action for the end, but it was too late. And Night of the Twisters, film that was released the same year as Twister, and is based on a true story, but the lack of budget for locations, special effects, and acting cast is very noticeable. In the next tier, and already in good, Into the Storm. The only film with a decent script, with enough action not to bore, and with the originality of first-person recording. The special effects accompany it very well, and the budget of already top-level production companies like Warner and New Line Cinema is very noticeable. With the production of none other than Steven Spielberg, but not under his direction, but rather Jan de Bont, an unknown and inexperienced Dutch director of photography who gained notoriety for his contribution to Basic Instinct that would go down in history for that famous scene. In his short repertoire, we find films like Speed 1 and 2, and his last direction in the cinema was in Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life. So with a budget of $92 million, a good script, and moderately renowned actors, we arrived at the film in question. The story begins directly with the scene of a family attacked by a tornado. In the news, they have just commented that Category 5 is possible, and later we will find out its meaning. With only 2 minutes of film, we have more action and drama than in all the ones in this tier. We see how the father of the family must hold the hatch of a shelter since the power of the tornado is very strong. But the curious thing about this shelter is that he only holds it with this mediocre handle. Unfortunately, he doesn't make it and he is dragged to his death. The little girl in that introduction grows up, and now we see Helen Hunt as Jo. Whoever, because of that tragedy, has become a meteorologist, but especially interested in tornadoes, has the dream of inventing a machine to be able to study them better and be able to prevent them sooner. While in the middle of an experiment, we see her ex-husband Bill, now a weather reporter, arrive, who needs Jo to sign her divorce papers. He is accompanied by his current partner, Melissa, a therapist completely unrelated to that environment. Of this varied group of characters that accompany, none of them really stands out. And we will only mention Dusty, who is none other than Philip Seymour Hoffman, and acts as comic relief during the film. Then we found out that in the past they had tried to design a device with a number of sensors that would allow it to better study tornadoes from the inside, called Dorothy. And now a good relationship can be seen between the team members, but they fail to intercept the tornado in time. Bill suffers a flat tire on his truck as a result of an incident with someone on Jonas's team, so they have to go get it repaired at a nearby gas station. While he waits for the tire, Bill learns how Jonas has built a machine similar to his invention, which makes him quite angry, and he decides to help Joe's team accomplish their mission and beat the competition so they can have credit for the discovery. They detect the appearance of what they call an F1. Then, they will explain its meaning to us. They go out in search of her. Bill goes with Joe in his truck to throw Dorothy, but a change of course of the tornado leaves them in a complicated situation from which they barely manage to get out alive by holding on under a bridge. And in these barely 30 minutes, we had such an interesting sequence that it leaves all the previous films far below and behind. And this is more than enough to place it in the very good tier. Now let's continue with the movie. Although they manage to survive, the tornado destroys their first machine as the strong winds lift their truck into the air and almost crush Melissa. As the storm continues, Joe asks Bill for his new truck, and although he refuses, he ends up accepting. When they are on their way to a new tornado, they cross paths with Jonas's team again. But this time, Bill's instinct and experience take over, so he changes paths predicting the movement of the tornado. Correctly using his knowledge, they find themselves facing the tornado, although they divide into two smaller ones. The winds are intense, and we see cows flying around them. After surviving the incident, the team arrives. They all agree to go visit Aunt Meg in the town of Wakita. There, they are going to take a break and eat something. After a lot of adventure, the film takes scenes of tranquility to provide us with information, such as explaining the category of tornadoes, which are called F1 to F4 depending on their intensity. Then Melissa asks if there is a category F5, and indeed there is, and only one person present has seen and survived a tornado of that intensity. Indeed, it is Joe, of whom we saw the scene in the introduction of the film. Breaking the peace, they have a new announcement of a possible F3, and the entire team quickly sets out in search of it. When they manage to find it, an electric pole makes it difficult for them to launch the second Dorothy machine. Joe is somewhat obsessed and still tries to repair her, but Bill must intervene to save her. In the middle of an argument that everyone hears on the radio, even her current and future wife, Melissa, hears how Joe and Bill still love each other, which leaves her reflective about her future relationship. That same night, they make a stop in a town where we see how a drive-in theater is showing one of Spielberg's favorite films, who, as we said, is the executive producer of the film, The Shining. When the tranquility barely seems to return, it doesn't last long. The announcement of a new tornado forces them to take refuge, as many as possible, in a shelter. With a little suspense, there are only a few injured, but when they come to the surface, they see the destruction. And the drama doesn't end because when they discover his direction, he goes straight to Wakita, Aunt Meg's house. In the midst of the situation, Melissa already accepts that she cannot continue with that life, and she abandons Bill. When they arrive at their destination, they see how the entire town was devastated. It was a Category F4 tornado. They arrive at Meg's house and it is in ruins, yet she has managed to survive and they manage to rescue her along with her dog. In the midst of the situation, Joe has the idea of attaching fins to the sensors, since with the wind, it would be the easiest way for the tornado to absorb them. Along the way, they use aluminum cans to adapt them to the two remaining machines. They have heard on the radio that an F5 category appears, and when they arrive at it, they place Dorothy 3, but it is a disaster, since some trees thrown by the strong winds hit the machine, leaving it unusable. Now they must survive debris such as a truck, a tractor, and various debris to escape the storm. On the other hand, Jonas's team is arriving, who, with the idea of launching their machine, is heading down a path towards intercepting. Bill and Joe try to dissuade him because they fear that the tornado will hit them directly, and also that his prototype would not be able to function without the new aerodynamic fins. Turning a deaf ear, they continue towards the inevitable. The tornado is very powerful, and they die in an explosion as dubious as it is made of weak CGI. With only one machine remaining, the Dorothy 4, they prepare a new attempt. Avoiding everything in their path, they direct the truck directly towards the tornado to achieve the successful launch. They finally manage to get the readings due to the absorbed sensors. But the danger is not over as they must flee from the path of the tornado. They escape to a barn, and thanks to some leather ties and some pipes. Where they are tied, they survive. When the storm dissipates, they talk about the team's future with their new discovery. Their friends arrive to help them, and we have the kiss of reconciliation to close the film. Final conclusion: Twister was a pioneer in the genre, taking a new danger as the main plot. In general, the plot is well explained. Even the multiple successive tornadoes are explained in a conversation where they warn that it is a time of storms like never before. Data that may be totally real, since these types of climatic anomalies exist. The performances are very accomplished, and the special effects have aged quite well for being more than 20 years old. Perhaps the weakest point is the secondary villain, Jonas, to whom death seems like a lot of punishment for someone who is described as conceited and who only does the activity for the money. But it doesn't seem like enough to earn the necessary hate. Furthermore, copying his invention can be taken as an inspiration, since if there are no patents and they did not have the plans, it is only an attempt to improve his prototype. We could say that his presence only serves as a reason for Bill to dare to join Joe's team again and beat the competition. Now, with a new adaptation soon to be released, we will see if they manage to honor a very good and iconic film from the 90s, or, on the contrary, it is another failed commercial attempt due to the lack of original ideas. If you like this type of content and have reached the end, a good like and subscription is appreciated to continue creating new videos about cinema. Until next time.